The most interesting thing about Last Boss Queen episode 9 is how way they go about this slave contract, which really what it is between Pride and Val, who basically, if she tells him a command, I mean, we see it, like it's almost like he's getting choked, the anxiety, the pain of trying to resist but having to do any order. You try to lash out, you'll basically get tossed away. But the idea that what this human trafficking story arc is doing here, because Val has these two kids that he's saying are, they're just annoying brats, nothing that he cares about. They're useful and it'll give him a happy life, but, they're brats. Like, he wants his servants back, right? But the most interesting thing about Val is how he's gone from what could have been a very simple, like, oh, bad character tried to kill Princess puts him under servitude, but they just bond very quickly. Everything about, from Val's perspective, if you look at it from his point of view, she looks like a villain. She looks like a princess who forced him into servitude, and, everything he knows about her, like, she's an evil princess, like someone that he doesn't respect and wanted to kill, right? So the idea that it took him over the course of this episode to finally, probably for the first time in his life, break down and cry, but most importantly, understand that he has worry and that his whole life he's never known what love was. It's tragic, it's painful, but the idea of this slave servitude contract is doing something you don't normally see, especially in an Otome game anime, and that's why the show's so special. Now, I do have a full live reaction episode 9 of Last Boss Queen available on my Patreon, so if you would like to see that, head on over there and consider supporting. There's a lot to dive into. I really think this could shape up to be the best arc of the show, and I wasn't really expecting more of Val. I was really expecting more of the princess, but you know what, Tiara? I'm okay pushing her to the side here, because the idea that this is very similar to my opinion of Gilbert, right? When Gilbert was brought up as like the, ooh, look at him, he's a little scumbag, he's a little weasel, he's talking mad shit about our girl Pride. And then, you don't really think too much of him because you're focusing on Stale, you're focusing on, of course, Arthur and everything, right? But the idea that you just have this, like, okay, a character that we know does not like Pride. She forced him into a servitude contract, but if he ever needed help, to bring himself back. But we see just how hard he was fighting. Like, he wanted to help those kids, but he was lying to himself, but also just lying to her about not caring as much as he's letting on, sort of a thing. And the idea of just passing out on the street and watching him just so mad, because this is what should happen. For how his mind was, how he was so tunnel vision into this hatred and this, like, this is the way life is. There isn't these hugs, there isn't these emotions being poured out. It's very interesting watching how it took the entire episode for him to even get the ability to cry. It wasn't even about embracing her specifically, it was about just, for probably his whole life, bottling up any negative emotions. And, this might sound like an insult, but it's really not. It's almost like the Grinch who stole Christmas. It's like Val's heart by the end of this episode grew 3 sizes this day, because literally he went from someone so angry. I mean, when we walk in that room, it's just a mess. It's an absolute mess. And by the end, it still is, but the difference between someone who just has blood all over the walls, everything broken, just so much anger, to then just seeing him and her just embrace in this subtle but so comforting moment. It's not about, oh, this is a new member for the harem now. It's not about, oh, this is why he's gonna just fall on the sword for her right then and there. It's about someone almost giving a motherly hug saying, I'm here for you and you care for these kids and that's good. That's an okay thing. You should embrace that. And it was so sweet, but it really highlights just the difference between Last Boss Queen and most of these anime that have any sort of servitude, if not slave contract, because that really is what it is. Back when this kind of moment happened, when she forced him under this fealty contract, she said, like, this could be the start of her becoming a villain, because essentially she has someone's life completely under her control. Yes, she put in a safety guard, so if anything bad happened with her that would then in return put Tiara in danger, she would be overridden and Tiara would be protected. But at the end of the day, you're essentially forcing someone's life into your hands, and by looking at how it was interacting in this episode, it kind of felt like he was on puppet strings, like he was being thrown across the room. If she told him to answer something, he had to. He was trying to choke himself. Hell, at points it felt like he was getting choked automatically, even without him trying to do it, just because there was so much pain. It felt like he was being tortured because he didn't want to give up information, but because of this contract, he had no choice but to do so for a woman he absolutely despised. Whatever your opinion was of the side he was fighting for, or why he wanted to kill her, at the end of the day, she did put someone's life into basically being a monkey that can dance for her. And yes, by the end of this episode, he's probably second guessing a lot of his opinions towards her, but it doesn't change that building into this and what he's probably felt ever since being forced into this contract. He felt like a human who had a gun to his head and couldn't properly be himself. Even if himself wanted to kill a princess, like, ignore that. He is a person at the end of the day, and it's really interesting how they're treating him as such. Like, this show is absolutely remarkable. I mean, Jujutsu Kaisen is finally coming back today, which is amazing, so we have another Thursday watch. But the great thing about this is that this show has kept Thursdays active, because it's not just like oh, you know, you're kind of laughing, it's an Otome Game anime of the season, yeah, it's kind of funny, or yeah, there's an arc here or there that's pretty decent. This show is legitimately amazing. Like, just the development we've seen. We've gone from, you know, think about someone like Stale, right? This, like, little boy who just was trying to run back to his mom and was so scared. You have Arthur, who thought he could never be a knight. He wasn't suited for being that. And then you have Gilbert, who was talking so much shit, but just wanted to protect his love and also get what was up to that point an evil princess away from power. And now we're dealing with someone like Val, who basically, you know, did live a very shitty and not so great life, but at the same time, in doing so, he did end up building, even if he couldn't accept it at face value, something that was a family to him. And the fact that that got removed by these human traffickers is not just simply about bringing them back so that they can work for him and make his life easier. It's like, deep down, he does care for them. And that's why that embrace and that crying and just, you know, finally probably feeling like, you know, he just needed a shoulder to cry on his whole life, and who knows what type of better decisions he might have been able to make. That's what's so great about this, and how, even though it does feel like in a lot of ways the arcs do get better, I think if you were to ask me picking between Stale, picking between Arthur, picking between Gilbert, any one of those I think I could interchange as being the best depending on a rewatch. Like, they're really well done. But I feel a lot different because, similar in the way, like I mentioned with Gilbert, a character I thought was, okay, yeah, like, we know he's there, and I had a stronger first impression of Val than Gilbert, but still, like, I wasn't expecting to see more of him, at least anytime soon. By bringing him back and then showing this human trafficking side and just, you know, the complexity of humans' emotions, but most importantly, reflecting back of when someone like Pride said she is worried about putting someone's life this much in her hands, because this could be the start. And you can very much see, like, she doesn't seem nice when she talks to him at times, and she feels intimidating. And put yourself in his shoes, yeah, she does seem like a villainess. So to me, it's absolutely fantastic how they're going the route of basically letting these plot points that you have seen before in anime, not even specifically just an Otome Game anime, but just anime in general. But it feels like I can't find myself comparing this servitude contract to anything else outside of this show right now, and that's really, really impressive. I think this is without a doubt the best episode so far. It sets the stage for a very, very compelling rescue mission, and hopefully it works out well. But either way, once again, I leave a show like this and an episode like this just saying, like, I'm so happy that rather than building a harem, it's like we're building natural connections that make sense given the circumstances, and it's fantastic. But thoughts and feelings yourself on Last Boss Queen episode 9 down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel. And like I mentioned, we have a full live reaction to this episode available on my Patreon, and you'll also get video shoutouts as well if that's interests you. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.